So there's that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This was broke, so we fixed it. And I have some great leadership with me today in the form of two city councilors, Trudy Jones and Ike Benton, who took a bipartisan approach working with the city staff and Susie Lubar and these great professionals who I'll introduce in a minute to really put Albuquerque on a path forward from a planning and zoning, investment, and neighborhood perspective that we haven't seen since the 1970s. We haven't taken a comprehensive rework of our zoning and comprehensive codes since the 1970s. And if you remember a year or two ago, we said the same thing about the biopark. We hadn't done a comprehensive plan for the zoo since the 70s. So there's a lot of things you do in government that are fairly quick. There's ribbons to cut. There's projects to start and finish within months. This is not one of those. This was a project that took 3.5 years and $1.5 million. It took outside consultants. It took leadership on the city council, leadership in the executive branch in our departments, and then it took these individuals who are here with me today, who I want to introduce to get this done. So we have Susie Lubar, Brendan Williams, Brendan's in the back over there, our Deputy Director of Planning, Russell Brito right here, this gentleman is our Urban Design and Development Manager. Michaela Reince Whitmore is a Senior Planner, she's right there. We've got Carrie Barkhurst, who's a planner. I'm looking around, there you are. Carol Tuffoletti, who's a planner. And then Tara Reed, who's an associate planner. And then from City Council, we have Petra Morris, right here, and Shanna Schultz, who's a council policy analyst. So what have these folks been doing? We took literally this stack, this labyrinth of regulation and inconsistency and good things, all mashed together that were confusing and unpredictable, and they literally, through meeting after meeting, neighborhood after neighborhood, in development community, investment community, worked on boiling these down into something that's understandable, that's predictable, that protects neighborhoods and makes it easier to invest in Albuquerque. This represents over 1,200 zoning categories, what we had before. And it was all well-intentioned. It was all people for decade after decade who wanted to do good things in their neighborhood, and they collectively had built over 60 sector plans in the city of Albuquerque. 40 of them had regulations. Sometimes you'd have a neighborhood with a regulation that didn't match the neighborhood. Sometimes they would overlap. Sometimes there were no protections in neighborhoods. So they took all of this and they came up with a new comprehensive plan that was passed March of this year, and then last week this IDO, which is our development ordinance in the city of Albuquerque, and they now have 20 categories and 20 overlay zones for the city of Albuquerque. So what does it mean? I think it means a lot of things, and I'm going to let the counselors and the experts tell you a little bit about it. But what it means to me is a guy that's been on the other side of the counter, as a person that wanted to make investments in this community, whether it was building our construction shop or working for clients that wanted to build a restaurant or a shopping center, whatever it happened to be, some kind of an improvement in the city. It meant that we had to navigate this and hope that the land that we bought and that the investors, other investors that around the community, hoping when you buy a piece of property that's zoned the way you think it's zoned for what you want to use it for, maybe a neighborhood shopping center, that you can actually come down to the city and somehow get through this. And we have had project after project walk away from the table because it's unpredictable, and time is money, and you just can't afford the time to navigate this. If you're a professional at the city of Albuquerque, you would have an investor and a neighborhood maybe at odds over something, and our professionals had to navigate this and try to make decisions based on things that didn't necessarily match. Then you end up with disputes. Then you end up in court. Then you end up once again, people are anxious. Then you have neighborhoods who some were very, very good and had learned over the years to use this to their benefit. And sometimes that would be to stop something that was zoned for what the land said it was. But most of the time it was for the right reasons. But now they're anxious because they don't know what's allowed. So there's more neighborhood protections in this than there was in this. There were neighborhoods that didn't even have setback requirements that someone could come in and really take advantage of the neighborhood because maybe they weren't as savvy and they just didn't have the wherewithal to stop something bad. So once again, I'll say that again, this has more neighborhood protections than this. But it also has more predictability, and it just makes it easier to navigate. When I talked to the gentleman who was our chief consultant for this project, I asked him pretty early on, how would you compare Albuquerque? And he said, I thought I had seen some bad cities as far as, who's open for business and who's protecting neighborhoods before. I hadn't seen anything until I saw Albuquerque. So these people spent the last year and a half. Your city is going to look better. Your neighborhood's going to be more protected, and there's more opportunity for investments, which means Albuquerque moving forward 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years from now, because of these people's work, is going to look better. And it's going to be a better city. So I couldn't be more proud of everybody here, and I'm going to turn it over here to our counselors in a minute. But it's just, like I say, in government sometimes it's easy to do the easy things. We have tried in this administration to take the long approach to lots of things. ART is another example. I talked to the transit people yesterday. That is a long game approach to improving our community. This is another great example of that. So I'm happy I can sign this today, and I'm going to take a lot of. I'm grateful for everybody here and the neighborhoods that worked with us and the investment community that give me an opportunity to sign this today. So let's let the two leaders from the city council talk about this because they did a great job. First, Councilor Benton, who I've enjoyed working with over the years. We've done a lot of things downtown, a lot of things in the district, but this is a real citywide thing. And then I'm going to have Councilor Jones talk to us as well. So Councilor Benton, let's start with you. Don't touch the stack.
All right. I'm staying away from it. Well, I've also had a whole career before being a city councilor on the other side of that counter. I wasn't a contractor. I was an architect, or still am an architect and planner. And so many times, I couldn't even get a straight answer. And it wasn't really their fault. It wasn't the person on the other side of the counter, the planning department's fault. It was the sheer complexity of what we have. And I may make some of my architect friends mad, but we made money trying to be the interpreters of this. And the problem with that is that's money that's up front, that's not necessarily creating the project. It's trying to fight to get the project, and that can't be the way we develop. If we can't stay just the way we are. There must be growth in the city if we're going to compete in any way on the regional and national scene. And so I'm glad that I won't have to be that interpreter anymore. And I really appreciate every single person standing up here who supported this effort, because it was a real team effort. A lot of people used to criticize the council for having their own land use planning staff. That was back in the day. I don't think I hear that anymore. We're very collaborative between the council and the planning department, as it should be, because we're the policy side of it and they're the implementation side of it. And that's the way we roll based on our city charter. So I'm really very pleased, obviously, and I want to echo what the mayor said: more predictability for all the stakeholders and more protection for the neighborhoods.
Thanks, Councilor. I appreciate you. So there's your architect in the group, the Democrat on the team. Here's your Republican real estate person on the team. So there really is, government really can work if you just put your swords down and work together. So Trudy Jones, one of the great real estate professionals in the city, she really did a great job pushing this and making sure it's a good piece of work. So please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for being here. This is one of those projects that you start into it and it sounds like a really good idea and this is going to be great, and then you get into it and you say, oh my goodness, it's how can we eat this whole elephant in a bite? So we had some great team members. Councilor Benton and I think, worked very well as a team. We made sure that every party was represented and had things to say. And I like to say that the developers, the business people weren't 100% happy, and the neighborhoods and some of the other people weren't 100% happy, but they can all make something happen with this. And that's good government. That is good government. And without these teams, of course, the city planners started this and got to write all of this stuff. The mayor's people and Susie's people, and they put it all together. It went through a committee. It came to the council to look at. And at this point, it took on the next step where our planners, and we lost one during the way and got another really great one. We have Petra as the newest member of this team, and Shanna worked on this from the beginning also. But we saw where it was going. We had a vision, and we helped the people in the city of Albuquerque see that vision and understand what it could do for them and for us as a city. It is unbelievable. So it is teamwork. We started out with the team, and we came in and we're the cleanup. Is that what we call it in sports? So the city council planners were the cleanup hitters, and we got it done, and we're pleased. This is one of the most longstanding and best pieces of government that we have ever done in the city of Albuquerque for at least 40 years. So thank you all for being here, and thanks for everyone who did this unbelievable work that you all did without whining. They never whined once. So thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank you,
Trudy.
Mayor.
So as I bring Susie up, Susie Lubar is my director of planning, who's just really brought a fantastic mindset to the planning department. We have a saying in my administration with our regulators: you have two jobs, keep people safe and help them succeed. And if you can't do the second thing, we can find somebody else to do the first thing. And they have just taken that mantra on, and they are helping people succeed. Evidenced by one last thing that I'll say before Susie is, this actually also protects the uniqueness of neighborhoods as much or more than this did. So this has been written specifically to allow our neighborhoods to be unique. The last thing we want is a city where every neighborhood looks the same. Our diversity is our strength, and they have written into this code your ability to have a unique neighborhood and keep it unique. So with that, I'm proud to announce my Director of Planning, Susie Lubar.
Thank you. Thank you. It is truly an honor to be here today as Mayor Berry prepares to sign the Integrated Development Ordinance. I would simply like to thank Mayor Berry, Councilors Jones and Benton for having the wisdom and the foresight to recognize that our existing system is broken, it does not work, and to be brave enough to actually direct the planning department to move forward to rewrite the zoning code. I also would like to acknowledge the amazing leadership of Russell Brito and Michaela Renz-Whitmore and the rest of the team from City Council and from Planning. These individuals maintained the highest level of enthusiasm, dedication, and professionalism throughout the entire 3.5-year project. They never lost hope that it would happen, and they continued to work hard no matter what the odds were. Additionally, I'd really like to take a moment, even though they're not present, to thank our consultants who participated in this project. Specifically, Don Elliott with Clarion Associates was essentially our lead consultant. We also had Friganisi Associates, Leland Consulting, Kimley Horn, Urban Interactive Studio, and our local Albuquerque firms, Decker Parrish Sabatini, Bohannon Houston, and Karpoff and Associates. Without all of these people working with us, we would not have been able to get this project done. Finally, I would really like to take a moment to thank all of the community members that participated in over 400 meetings and provided us with the essential information that we needed to incorporate into the IDO. Once the IDO takes effect, which will be roughly in June, we believe that we will see developers working with neighbors collaboratively, creating projects that have a higher level of quality standards and infinitely better neighborhood protections. And I think I can speak on behalf of all of us that we're really looking forward to that. Thank you.
Hey, Susie. I'll sign this in just a minute, but one of the things that Susie was alluding to is what this new document does is it forces the development community, the investors, to engage the neighborhood much, much earlier in the process. So many times what would happen is the plans and projects would get a long ways down the road before the neighborhood had input, and that created a lot of anxiety, created a lot of conflict, created a lot of time in the courtroom. And now, one of the main things this does for the neighborhoods, on top of allowing them to stay unique, is it forces, there's a higher rigor for the developers in this than there was before. So they have to now engage with the neighborhoods at the front end of this rather than later. We think that's going to be an opportunity to resolve things on the front end before investors put millions of dollars down and then get delayed for a year and a half during disputes. And it will help the neighborhoods so that they can get their voices heard earlier and have a more collaborative process. So many, many reasons to be happy today, and mostly when you think about where your tax dollars go tonight, when you're having dinner, it goes to these people, and they did a great job for you. So let's sign it.